Yeah. 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 Hello and welcome to the Sexual World Records podcast. We're like the Guinness Book of World Records, except for all the horny, raunchy stuff in the adult industry. I'm your guest host, Dustin Rybka. I normally host a show called Sex Party with Dustin Rybka, but this week I am guest hosting this podcast, and you are in for a treat. We have a multi-sexual world record holder with us today, an AVN Hall of Famer, Brittany Andrews. We talk about everything from 100-person FootJob orgy gangbang to a little people orgy strap-on gangbang to Howard Stern. We talk about it all, her time in the industry, her return to the industry. She's had over 30 years in the adult industry, and she is a living legend. So without further ado, enjoy this conversation with Brittany Andrews. Miss Brittany Andrews, welcome to the Sexual World Records podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm just dandy. We were just talking a little bit before the show started that I have been under the weather. I've had like some kind of weird mutated flu thing. So I'm not my typical glamorous self tonight. You're going to have to deal with the t-shirt and PJs version. But I mean, the PJs do match my room.
Yeah, they don't care. You think they care? They don't give a shit.
You know, you have a very good point there. As I've gotten older, I've came to respect that concept a lot more.
You're a living legend. You could show up in a garbage bag and they'd be like, "Oh, this is awesome. Yeah." It'd be like a new kink or something. Well, for the one person out there under a rock somewhere in Iowa that doesn't know who you are, can you talk a little bit about who you are, what you do, what you've done, just a little flash of intro and history?
Sure. So I have been in the adult entertainment industry since 1991. Which means I've been in the adult business for over 30 years. Yes, most of the young men that I am boinking on film weren't even a sperm thought at that moment. So these kids come up to me and I'm like, honey, I've been in the business longer than you've been alive. Talk to the hand, kiddo. Don't give Mistress Mom any kind of shit. I don't need it from you, kid. But yeah, so I've been around a long time. I have taken some breaks, you know, in between. I've done some other things. I went to film school in New York for 3 years, and I was producing and directing like mainstream feature films and commercials and all that kind of stuff. I've got some stuff on Netflix, and then I DJ'd. I took a master. I got a master certification in Ableton. I started DJing all around the world, and I was producing tracks. And then, you know, all that has to be said is OnlyFans. And I was like, you know what? This bitch still has got it. I'm going to jump back in and get me some of the OnlyFans money, motherfucker.
Well,
and that's what I did.
Yeah, I mean, the OnlyFans money is just everywhere right now. So how could you not, right?
Right, exactly.
And it's crazy because it seems like, so, I mean, over 30 years in the industry, you have literally seen, heard, and probably done all of it. And so how would you sum up how far the industry has moved or not moved in the last 30 plus years?
Well, you know, the adult entertainment industry has always been, you know, a leader of technology. So there's been so many changes, you know, over the years. You know, when I first started off, things were being shot on 35 millimeter on camera. You know, they had like the big beta cams after that. I mean, the actual small, like digital, and it wasn't even digital. I mean, it was still tape. But, you know, going from film to actual tape, and then from tape to digital, you know, I went through all of that. And from, you know, VHS to DVD to, you know, online to, you know, the adult entertainment industry being a small group of people to now the adult entertainment industry is pretty much a collective of all sex workers around the globe. So it's a very different market to participate in competition wise. You know, somebody was talking to me about it and they were like, was it better back in the day or now? And I said, well, you know, it really is comparing, you know, apples to oranges because there's just so many differences. I said, the one thing that I liked a lot better back then is competition wise, you only had like, you know, a couple of hundred bitches that you were competing against, not every Instagram influencer on the planet who now you're competing because now they've got an OnlyFans. So it's much more difficult to kind of, I feel, get to the top of the game than it was back then, or at least that's what it seems to me. On my round two, you know, maybe if my round one was now and I catapulted to the top the way that I did back in my youth, maybe I'd say something different. But from the Manolo Blahniks that I'm wearing at this moment, that's, you know, how it feels. And I think for the listeners, I think that makes a lot of common sense. You know, looking at the span of like what the collective competition is now in comparison to what it used to be.
Yeah, and you have a lot of people now saying that OnlyFans is put the control back into women's hands primarily, the creators' hands. And so that's like a plus, right? So I'm wondering, like, what are your thoughts on that? But also at the same time, from a living legend, right? If there was someone who is 18, 19, 20, 21, maybe they're 30, who cares, right? She's a young woman. OnlyFans is here now. She's asking you, someone who has all of the experience you could ever hope to have, what advice would you give her getting into the industry now?
Well, I have people ask me that all the time. They're like, oh, I want to start an OnlyFans. And I was like, you know what? I made a video for you, bitch, because it's a lot. And I don't want to go through it over and over and over again. But I want you to really understand like how much work it's going to be successful, because I'm a bitch with a brand. And even for me, it's a shit ton of work. So let me make this video and let's see if I ever hear from you again.
Did you scare him off or what?
I've sent that video to so many people, and not one motherfucker I think has ever done the work and came back. Wow. I think they're just like, wow, this is a lot more than what I thought it was going to be. And it's like, you know what? If I help them not waste their time, you know, by sitting there and dicking around with it for a year, not making any money, you know, I'm happy about that. Or maybe if they need to think a little bit more about it, or maybe they decided then to go to like a management team or something after that, you know, but I gave them the honest truth, you know, and that's, you know, that's all I can do. But, you know, being, if somebody's out there and they're listening, what I would say is probably speak to a couple of different management agencies so you can get a real scope of like how much work it's going to be, because you can't take a couple of pictures of your feet and throw it online and think you're going to make anything. Not to say you won't. Maybe you might get the, you know, the world's biggest whale foot fetish guide that will find your OnlyFans and, you know, the stars have aligned. But most people are going to really have to put a ton of work into promotions, marketing strategies, advertising, shooting the content, editing the content, having the camera equipment, having the lighting equipment, having the storylines, having, you know, all these different types of things, talking to the customers all day, all night. It's just a lot of work. And there's so many very sophisticated strategies that are being done by teams of people that if your promotional and marketing strategies aren't sophisticated, you're probably not ever going to get seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because you're right. There are so many women that have spoken to me around my podcast and even in like my personal life, like, well, I want to do an OnlyFans, but I'm not going to open my legs. I want to do an OnlyFans, but I'm just going to show my ass and tits and not my face. And it's like, that's great. But and it's good if you tease that and then show whatever, like, because everybody loves a good tease and that's where the money's at, whatever. But like, the thing is you're not gonna if you eventually don't give that away, you know, you can only string it out for so long. Those people just aren't gonna make any money. You're right, unless the world's biggest, you know, foot fetish guy or like tit fetish guy like comes along.
Or you've got a company that's spending $1 million on promo.
Right. Right.
You know, and they're able to throw that traffic at you, and they've got a full strategy of how they're going to roll out your content. And they think that you've got what it takes to be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
Right? Because definitely there is that strategy that does work for some of those girls with those agencies, with those people managing them.
Yeah.
And that is very much a dedicated strategy that if you're not doing it, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you ain't gonna get nothing.
Yeah, but I mean, you would agree that the tease eventually has to pay off at some point.
Not everybody. Not everybody. You know, not everybody. Yeah, you know, some people can get away with not doing much and make millions.
But
once again, they got to work a proven strategy of how you do the promo. You've got to have like millions of dollars into it. That's going to be with an agency that's not putting all that money. They're not spending all that money just for you, obviously. They're doing it for a bunch of models. And they've got a rollout strategy of like how this is going to work, you know. And it's usually some girl that's got that 18-year-old girl next door look, right? That can just have this enigmatic smile that's super cute and really young, and you know, and can be that girlfriend that some guys want, and or you know, you're a celebrity of a different sort.
Sure.
Like a Bella Thorne or something like that. You're doing some other, you're a sports star or something like that, and you decide to get an OnlyFans, and you can still make millions without showing the poo-tang.
Yeah.
Once again, it's not going to be your average bitch.
No, yeah, not at all. And even Bella Thorne took heat when she was like saying things like, you know, about sending pictures of her boobs and like whatever, and people would buy the $25 package and it would be her like holding, and she'd be like, well, it's implied nudity, it's not nudity. So then people there was a bit of a backlash, but you're right, like she still got away with that. She still made probably tens of millions of dollars in a very quick, like 1 year period or whatever. And good for her. That's fucking great.
Right, dude. Exactly. Don't hate the player, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
She figured it out without having to show her cunt. Bless her soul, man.
Yeah. No,
I haven't. Well, when I see a bitch like that, I'm like, man, I'm over here doing DPs and gangbangs and sucking cock. Jesus, man. I needed one of those fucking Russian strategists, man.
For real. They know what's up. They know what they're doing.
I know. I mean, look at Trump. Hey.
Well, speaking of everything you just said, DPs and sucking cock and all of the good stuff, right? The notes that I've been handed by and by handed, I mean emailed, by the Sexual World Records crew, is that you are a multi-sexual world record holder. One, and this may or may not be true, our note taker has been known to get this wrong, so I need you to you can approve or deny. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
That you hold the record for the world's largest foot gangbang. Is this real?
The world's largest, most extravagant foot job gangbang. Yes.
Okay, let's talk about this. Like for the noobs out there that may have wandered into the wrong internet corner, what is a foot job gangbang, and what was it like?
You know, I've lived a very colorful life. I've traveled all over the world. I've dated billionaires, millionaires. I've been in jail in 3 different countries. Well, 4, including America. And, the foot job gangbang was definitely one of the stranger moments of my life. And what was funny was I had like multiple friends of mine that were part of the actual crew. So a friend of mine was doing like the set design for it. I had another friend that was like the makeup artist, another friend that was doing the photography. So I had friends on set for the actual shoot. And it was during that time when everybody was doing a gangbang, right? You had the Houston 500, you had like a 2000 gangbang. Everybody was doing like these really big gangbangs. It was the fad at that moment. And I was like, well, how do I jump on this bandwagon without having to fuck like 2000 guys, Because I think it was up to around 2000 by the time I did the foot job gangbang. And I was like, how do I get on this bandwagon? And so one of the gentlemen that used to work at AVM, he ended up starting his own series called Barefoot Confidential. And I was on the box cover of that back when they used to have something called box covers.
Yeah.
I was on the box cover of that. Yeah, exactly. A couple of times. And he said, hey, do you want to do this foot job gangbang? And I was like, oh my God, that's fucking genius. Right. So the whole concept of the foot job gangbang was a Cinderella concept. And so one of the questions that you get asked as a porn star quite often is, do fluffers exist? And typically I always say, yes, it's called your hand. But on gangbangs, fluffers do usually actually exist. So I did have 2 fluffers, on my gangbang. I think there was like maybe 200 guys. And the concept was the Cinderella theme. And so we had these pillars. Like I had this gorgeous outfit. My hair was super fabulous. And the set design was amazing. It was, a friend of mine from back in the 90s when Burning Man first started. Like he was the guy that designed the actual Burning Man and the Lotus that started burning. So he was really great set designer from San Francisco. And so everything was this beautiful, like pink and like purplish blue and silver. And on the pillars next to my like throne that I was on was some glass slippers. And so whenever the guys, busted a nut, they busted a nut in the slippers. And then at the end of the film, I had a red carpet where I put the glass slippers on, and then I sloshed my feet, all my cum-filled slippered feet, all the way down the red carpet. And so nobody actually had sex with me. It was all with my feet. Yes. So to this day, there's a lot of guys that, that was a momentous moment. And I've heard that somebody was going to be redoing it. And I was like, no, you can't do that. No, I'm planning on keeping that title. I've had that title for 25 years or something now.
Yeah, I mean, and what a unique, like you're right, what a unique title to have, right? And I feel like now you have footfinder.com. I mean, my girlfriend gets hit up for pictures of her feet all the time from random strangers. I'm like, honey, send them your PayPal link, right? Just the link. That's it, right? See what they do. So like you were ahead of your time in doing that, because now it's even more, I don't want to say more popular because it's probably always been a thing, but it's more.
Yeah, I actually think it's less popular now.
It's just more talked about, I feel like. Yeah. But you might be right. You might be right. Yeah.
I feel like foot fetish used to be way more of a thing than it is now. I mean, it used to have so many different foot fetish magazines,
Yeah.
columns, DVD series, like on TV, you know, on Playboy TV and Spice. Because back in the day, there was something that doesn't exist all that much anymore, which is called softcore. And softcore was a huge thing. Like I really built my entire career on softcore. I didn't do a lot of hardcore. And nobody did back then. I mean, very few people, like the guys did, but most of the girls
Mhm.
were contracted and they did like 10 films a year. Right. And so I was never a contracted model, but I typically did the same amount as most contracted girls. I did like 10 to 15 films a year. Since this comeback, I mean, I've shot way more than I ever shot when I was younger because the internet is this beast that expects to be fed every moment of the day. You know, as a
Mhm.
content creator, like you just have to consistently be feeding that beast. But back in the day, you did like 10 films. So I did tons of magazines. I did tons of fetish. You know, I did Bob's boat, big boob boating, right? Like I had so many of these stupid nude golfing, like just softcore videos. I did hundreds and hundreds of like softcore fetish videos, big boob videos. I did so many foot fetish videos, where that just doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah, I mean, when you were doing, yeah, you're right, and it's because the internet demands. It's hungry. It wants its mashed potatoes, right? Every
And it wants hardcore now, you know? It's
yeah,
like if there's
yeah.
gonna be feet, they want it like with fucking or something, right?
Mhm,
Where back
mhm.
in the day, there was like this pinup, vintage, burlesque aspect of like what foot fetish was with the Cuban heeled stocking. And I mean, certain poses that you would do. And, you know, it was a very stylized look that
Yeah.
I feel has been on the whole kind of lost, and I feel it's so sad because it was such an art and it was so beautiful. I'm a huge foot fetishist myself, and I mean that look to this day I'm just like I mean I love
Yeah.
it, you know. And yeah, you know, and it's sad because like none of the younger models have any idea what those poses are, what Cuban heeled stockings are. Like it's just like a lot of the beauty and the art of fetish, I feel, has just been obliterated by like the need for, you know, instant consumer gratification of like feed me in 2 minutes. I want fast food porn, right? Nobody's got the time to create like the art of like what it used
Mhm.
to be, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're correct on all of that, and I think I'm just hearing the foot fetish stuff more for the first time in my life because, you know, I live with my girlfriend. I see what comes through her DMs, right? But also too, like, I run my own podcast called Sex Party, and it's just it pops up more. And if anybody's going to know more than anybody, it's going to be you, right? So of course. And I love and appreciate what you said about the burlesque, sort of teasy, that vintage pinup sort of thing. I mean, I live here in Chicago, which is the home of Playboy, y'all, not LA. Chicago is the home of Playboy.
Exactly.
You know, and that thing still exists here. There still is little underground speakeasy clubs where on certain nights it's like burlesque, and it's exactly what you're talking about. I know LA does it a little bit too, and that sort of sexuality, it did get kind of zapped out for more of an instant gratification kind of a thing. And like, you know, we all want to bust a nut, but
Yeah.
it's kind of fun when there's a bit of a tease, a bit of a build up, right? Like we were talking about
Right.
earlier with the tease, you know, it is
Yeah.
really,
And
really important.
someone that for like myself that has a foot fetish, and obviously it was very influenced by the work that I did. Um, like I guess for me it isn't always about busting the nut. It's like about the the lust factor,
Hmm.
right? Like the beauty, the lust, the admiration, the like take like kind of the beauty of like taking your breath away of how gorgeous it is, you know? Like sometimes it's not always just about the end result.
No, yeah. That's the thing about like just normal sex is I had to learn when you stop like I always wanted to be performative because I was like fucking all these girls and they would like cheat on their boyfriend and come to me and but it would be with the intention of like I'm cheating, I want to get off, whatever. So I sort of learned early to be very performative and do that whole thing. And then when I would get into relationships, I would try and fuck like that. They'd be like, "What are you doing, dude?" Like stop. So I had to unlearn that. And so you're so right. Like there
That's
is a
so
lot
funny.
to
Yeah.
be said about like the art to it, the
Performance.
build up
Yeah.
to it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of performance, right? 2008 AVN Hall of Fame, 2013 AXBIDS Award nomination, Crossover Star of the Year, 2022 and 2023 AVN Award Favorite Dom. I mean, what does
And
that
there's a
feel like?
bunch of them that I got
Yeah,
back before that don't exist on the
totally.
internet.
Yeah, these are just the top ones that were
That's like,
highlighted.
yeah, that's been like since I retired.
Sure.
Like that's when Wikipedia became a thing or whatever. But yeah, I had him. I was best actress, best supporting actress, all that stuff back in the 90s and stuff. But yeah, been doing it a long time. But yeah, I've had best dominatrix of the year award the last 2 years in a row. And then yeah, Hall of Fame. And it's funny because somebody else I know right now is complaining that they want to get their Hall of Fame. And it was funny because when I wanted my Hall of Fame, I told them, "Hey, I'm retiring. Give me my fucking Hall of Fame." And they were like, "Okay." And I got 2 Hall of Fames. That year, I did a big retirement party. And then I was out of here for 10 years. I left in like 2008. And then I didn't come back until the end of 2018, like officially. I did a few films in between there, here and there, but like a handful in between in that 10
Mhm.
years.
So what does it feel like? Can you walk me through when your name is called and you go and grab that award? What does it actually feel like, whether it's during, before, or after, when you have the award and you've been given that many awards for being as good as you are at what you do? What is that feeling like? Do you really play around in that, or does it not matter to you?
Well, I think the one that I think a lot of them didn't matter to me until I got the Dominatrix of the Year award one, which was funny because there was a girl on Twitter that had the audacity to say to a dominatrix that you're not even a dominatrix.
Jealousy.
Well, I get where she was coming from, right? Because it's a difficult. Let's just put it first and foremost. I'm a very spiritual human being. I'm a witch. I meditate. I'm like, I believe in love and positivity and all the stuff. I've worked through a lot of my trauma. Seriously, I have. And so the last thing I'm going to do is attack. And I get where they're coming from because a lot of the dominatrixes that are out there are not mainstream porn stars. So the only opportunity that they get to get an award is that one. And I get where they're frustrated that it's somebody that is also a porn star, right? They're like, "Yo, bitch, like stay the fuck out of this one. Do the porn ones and let us have our dominatrix one." And I get it. I get it. I really do. But I have been a dominatrix in the adult entertainment industry, and I have got my fetish resume is so long and strong. Starting from the early 90s and a lot of being at the forefront. I was like I call myself the pioneer of pegging, not because I came up with pegging, but because back in the day I had a 5,000 square foot studio and I was producing and directing when there really were two, three. I mean, there was not a lot of producer director females. There was definitely more on the side of directing. There was a couple of them for VCA that were directing Jane Hamilton, but literally there was no female directors. Candidata Royale. I mean, the list was so tiny, right? And then so if you were a director and a female, you were in a very small group. If you were a producer director, much more small group. And then distributor, producer, director, I only knew of maybe 2 other women back then that were Candidata Royale being one of them, that were doing that. And so there really was no other women that were the star and then producing, directing, and doing distribution. So I really was like the first female to take pegging and bring it onto VHS. This is before DVD. So, you know, I gave myself the title Pioneer Pegging because I'm the one that brought it to film, you know?
Yeah.
And I was the first one to have a FEMDOM, one of the first ones to have a FEMDOM website. I had, what was it called? I can't think of it right now, but I had one of the first websites that was a FEMDOM website. So when FEMDOM was very not heard of. So I was doing FEMDOM before FEMDOM, the word even existed. I was doing pegging before the word pegging even existed. I was the ambassador of a, you know, trampling, smothering, facing. And I worked with like Terry Richardson, the very well-known commercial photographer doing fetish. I mean, I'd worked with so many fetish photographers and I double-fisted Chloe for an Earl Miller shoot in Penthouse magazine in all latex. And so, I mean, and I had a dungeon since I've been 23 years old. I got a dungeon that's right next to my room here now. So that one meant a lot to me. And not necessarily because of what it meant, but what I had it mean for me. Like when I was in Playboy magazine, it was a very difficult issue. It was the one and only ever issue that they shot with adult film stars in it. And it was the only time Playboy ever shot porn stars. And this was back in the studio days. This was the biggest competition around on the block. You know, Vivid, VCA, Wicked, they were all like fighting against each other. And they're like, you're not going to have Jenna or you're not going to have Julianne unless you take this other girl. You know, they were playing leverage games, right? And what was supposed to happen in, you know, a couple of months ended up taking 6 months because everybody was, you know, fucking throwing their dick into the game and, you know, spread it. And I said, I just want to go to fucking Taco Bell. I'm dying here. I'm starving. I'm trying to look my absolute best, having a perfect tan, having extensions, my roots done. I'm like, I can't handle this bullshit. I was the only girl that wasn't contracted. I was like, I'm fucking out of here. I'm done with this. And it was so funny because they were like, well, you know, before you take your name out of the game, they're like, we just want you to know one thing. We're really looking for models that have personality. And I was like, oh, personality, bitch. I got lots of that. All right, motherfucker, I'm staying. But what was crazy about that was it was a very fetish shoot. I was doing face sitting. I had the guy, the model in fishnet stockings. And the story was about me doing, this was before the word sissification even existed, right? Doing sissification on my my slave boy that I had on at that time. I was really into a French sissy maids, right? And so the interview for all the models, mine was the first one and the biggest one. And it was, I thought it was very huge of Playboy at that time to kind of go that far and let me be me, you know, with all my fetish stuff. Because it was really way before a lot of that kind of stuff was like more acceptable. And so like, I always felt like I was on the forefront of fetish and, you know, the femdom world. I was always ahead. And so me getting that award was like an award to myself, like for everything that I've done as a porn star, because I really was one of the only porn stars that was able to split my fan base into like 50-50, a 50 vanilla and 50 fetish. That just didn't exist back then, you know? And I just, and it's such a huge part of like who I am, not just my career, but personally as a human being, that it just was so nice to like have that as like, job well done, bitch. You know, it meant a lot to me, not because of like whatever anybody else's, but what the meaning that I gave to it for myself, you know. So I really did appreciate that one. But now I'm like, you know what? I don't want to keep getting it year after year because the whole FEMDOM community is going to continue to keep getting pissed off at me. And I'm like, you know, I'm not trying to make enemies here, people. You know, like give me a MILF award. Let me, you know, get a because I'm almost a GILF. I need my MILF award because before I retired, MILFs didn't exist, you know?
Oh, you better start that pressure campaign. Just call your people and be like, listen, asshole.
I have.
Good. Good. No, because you deserve it, you know, and people got pissed at Michael Jordan too. So look at it that way, you know? Fuck that. I want to ask you while we're here on these topics, I mean, because you are kind of hailed as the pioneer of pegging. I've heard that, I've seen that, all of those things. Where did the femdom pegging dominatrix side of you come from? Did you always have those things in you? Were you always interested in those things? Or did they sort of like bubble up as you continued on your journey in the industry?
So, in my youths, you know, I had like a hot pink mohawk up to here with like black using eyeliner to write on my bald head, fuck you. And the first time I got arrested was like at a Suicidal Tendencies concert. I was shooting up when I was fucking like 14 years old, drinking fucking Jaeger, wearing, you know, Doc Martin, you know, Batman blue, head walking. Like, I was a fucking badass bitch as a teenager. And I would go and get my belts from Ace Hardware. I'd make them out of chains and shit. And when I got fucked up, man, I'd start beating the shit out of men and I'd start fucking shoving things in their ass. From a young age, I was like putting them, I used to cut up my electrical cords and tie motherfuckers up. Yeah, I've always, you know, I'm sure I was burned at the stake as a witch in a past lifetime. So thank God you can be a witch nowadays without having to go through all of that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what a journey though to start out like with that, right?
I know it's interesting because when I was younger, I used to get like suspended all the time because of the clothing that I wore. Right now, I live in a 5-bedroom house alone, and every single one of my closets are full with like these amazing fucking costumes from being in the business for over 30 years. Right. It's like that was just the precursor to me getting into this business, you know, like that was my creativity and all that stuff was playing itself out when I was really young. And yeah, my mom could not handle everything that was called me when I was in my youth. And so, you know, I flourished, but all those things definitely show through as an adult that I had the opportunity to be that expressive and creative when I was younger, to kind of be able to flourish so fast and easily when I was in my 20s in the business.
Yeah. I mean, are you gonna put together like a huge book, a memoir, a picture book, something to like, I mean, I feel like your career lends itself to not only like a written book, but like one of those like super thick, you know, coffee table things, like costumes and like props and all of that stuff. Are you going to do some stuff like that to like sort of cap off like your time in the industry? Because I mean,
I don't know. I'm not there yet, but I will say that I feel like I'm definitely more of a Netflix series than a book.
Well, yeah. I just feel like if you do the book, right, then you just take all those profits, right? Then do the Netflix series, do them both, right? Even just like a big picture coffee table book, I think from you would be amazing. I always flash back to the one Madonna did, you know, it was just such a big, like a huge oh my God factor. Like people hadn't seen anything like that since like Andy Warhol or whatever. And as you're talking, I'm like, God damn, how cool would it be just to see pictures of all of these things from your youth all the way
I'm
up.
very organized. I've literally got all my file cabinets in
I
my
can tell.
garage from my 20s, and it's got everything in its file. You know, like I was funny because I was looking for something the other day and it was like, oh, there it is from my 20s, right underneath F, where it belongs in the file cabinet. I've got all the chromes and all the pictures and the negative slides and like all that stuff I still have.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Okay. The other thing on this notes list that may or may not be right, we're just going to take a stab at it because it's what we do here, right?
Yes.
Um, is it okay? Is this true? You always wanted to do the world's largest strap-on gangbang with little people. With
Yes.
little. Okay. Okay. So that's another
Yes.
true one. Okay. So we're not going to fire the note taker for this episode. He gets to stay.
So right before COVID, we were planning on putting it together. I was going to do the Howard Stern show and do a fucking gangbang of little people and just, just take a bunch of these little bitches down with my big fucking cock, man. I was like, ready to take insides out and flip them around. And I so badly want to do that still. I'm still down for it.
Well, were you in the process of organizing it when COVID hit? Oh man.
Yes, it was like it was supposed to be right. Yeah, we were putting everything together right at that time and then COVID hit and but I'm willing to continue that dream.
Yeah, that is a dream. And I think would it be multiple strap-ons of different sizes or just one giant strap-on?
You know what? This is what I like to say to male bitches is, you know what? As a woman, you don't get a choice what size. The first time I got my ass fucked, you know what? I had to take the cock that was attached to the body. There was none of this bullshit like, oh, I can't handle that. Put a different size on. Bitch, you gonna take it. You gonna take what I got on right now. That's my feeling.
Would it be all male or male and female little people?
I guess it depends, you know?
Yeah.
If some females wanted to get in there, but I would say that it probably pH balance wise wouldn't be the best if I'm doing like a lot of ass to pussy. But some women have some very sturdy pH balance, like, you know, vaginal ecosystems. I'm not one of them.
You mentioned Howard Stern. I know you've been on shows recently, like 90 Day Fiance, but we can talk about that because I think that's fucking awesome too. But Howard Stern and you have a friendship, right? From what I understand.
I wouldn't say a friendship, but
you've been on the show a couple times, right?
Yeah, I was on his show quite a few times, and actually, I had sex with a you can't call them midgets anymore. I'm so used to saying this story, calling them midgets. Yeah. A virgin midget. I'm just gonna say because that's what I've been saying for fucking 25 years. Call me politically incorrect, but yeah, there was a guy Donald on there that was a virgin, and I had sex with him in the middle of Times Square in a taxi cab.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was for one of the Howard Stern shows. I was on there with, you know, Marilyn Manson, Ozzy Osbourne. I was on there quite a few times. I did a foot fetish thing with him one time where I went underneath his little, what do you call it? Desk or whatever.
Yeah.
And I gave him like a foot massage and I did his show a lot. I gave him quite a few of his top shows back in the day.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, you know, a lot of people will, you know, they'll say a lot about Howard Stern, but he is the king like of interviewing. I think he still, even though now he's obviously more mainstream, he still kills it with some of his questions. He still like knows how to get entertainment and like real shit out of people. I mean, that's really awesome that you were able to get in there that many times and like contribute that much to his show.
I think at the end of the day, I really did not like him. Let's just be honest. I did not like him because you know what? I saw so many women that I knew that went on his show and he shattered them, shattered them. Like they did not have the kind of quick wit and hard shell that I've got. So I had no problem doing a show because at the end of the day, you want to make fun of me? Let's start off with my laugh. I've got like 110 different things about myself that annoy me. So let's go ahead. Let's go for it. Let's talk about it, right? Which takes the fun out of it for him. He's like, I'm
Yeah,
fuck, right? This is a bitch I can't fuck with, right? So, I ended up doing, I think, like a lot more of the more fun and entertaining kind of things on there. But man, it really made me so sad to see like how he really just demolished a lot of women on his show. I didn't like it then. I still don't like it now. And I think he's even came to like a spiritual place, both personally and publicly, about some of that stuff. It just wasn't cool. It wasn't cool. It was really shitty, actually.
Yeah, it seems like, before the internet is what we know it now, right? I mean, it was there. It was kind of like percolating in the background a bit, and like the shock radio shit. It was the same thing that people do now with this like absurd, crazy shit for clicks, right? You have all these like right-wing people doing crazy, like saying crazy shit, like Smurfs are invading the kids' school or whatever. Like, but a lot of that stuff is like for clicks. So back then, it seems like he was doing. So it would make sense that as someone got older, in the way that you did, where you're like, fuck, like you arrived at this spiritual, peaceful, meditative place, right? It seems like you're right. He did too, through some form that he's got to feel bad about some of that shit.
Yeah, and I think I've heard something about that. And I think, nowadays, yeah, you'd never be able to get away with saying I mean, I can't even say it. My little person story. I'm probably going to get in trouble for that. Sorry. But yeah, you have to be much more careful nowadays with everything you say. Back then, you could pretty much get away with almost anything.
Yeah.
And there's pros and cons to that. There's pros and cons to that. I think in the long run, more pros than cons, even though it really fucks up a lot of my own sense of humor and my best stories of my life. But, it's not always about me, damn it. I think in general, I think it's, a lot of the political correctedness is made to be more empathetic to other human beings' feelings. And I think that's a good thing in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I always say, well, we've had a couple, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of whatever of years where it's just been like, just
Fuck you.
murdering, raping, and pillaging. Like,
Yeah, dude.
come on, like, what the
We
fuck?
should get a little bit more civilized with time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
chill, y'all. Oh my God, eat some shrooms, relax. Women can make more than men. It's okay, bro.
Right, dude.
Chill the fuck out. Well, I want to ask you a few questions here towards the end. One that fascinated me personally when you were talking. What was it like to go from, and when did you do it? Right, you're doing porn, you're in the adult industry. Then you just decide that you want to produce and direct, and what was it like? Like you said, you had a 5,000 square foot studio. Like, what was it like just having your own world, doing your own thing?
So actually, I started right from the beginning of my career.
Of course you did.
I did actually. I jumped right into it from
That's
the
amazing.
beginning. So I started porn, and the first guy that I dated was a producer director. And so then I became his production coordinator for some of the things, and we co-produced a couple of things. I didn't date him very long, but I was already on my feet and running from there. So at the age of 23 was when I built my studio. So I was producing and directing. I mean, I think by like 1997 was when I started my own productions, and I got into like filming hardcore scenes in 95. So 2 years into the business is when I started producing and, well, actually I started co-producing literally in 19, maybe 96, maybe it took me a little bit, but I mean, really from the beginning, I was in there. And then I was producing for Playboy and then when it went from VHS, I had a bunch of my own DVD series that I had like 30 websites back in the day. I was called the Niche Bitch. I had the Niche Bitch Network. My affiliate program was Bitch Pays. One of my DVD series was Bitches Beating Boys. My strap-on series was Brittany's Bitch Boys. And I think my FEMDOM website, fuck, I still can't remember. Shit.
Well, when you have 30, it's quite a bit. What do you contribute your longevity in the industry to? I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, as we've seen a lot of people come and go, a lot of people go. But you're just like, even though you went and did other things, they were big other things, right? So you've had this like tremendous longevity with creative stuff. So what do you attribute all of it to?
Not being creative.
Oh my God.
No,
Oh my God.
it's very true though. I attribute it to being a smart business person, right? Not the creative aspect of things, but how do you build a business? How do you start from the ground up, getting the LLC, putting together the marketing, putting together the business plan, understanding distribution, putting together a team, managing a team, understanding your financials, looking at your P&L sheets, your balance statements, like just being a smart business person that does all the boring stuff that nobody else wants to do. Everybody wants to do the creative stuff. Not everybody else wants to spend their entire weekend looking at their numbers.
Yeah.
And I've always done that. Always. And I think that that's true longevity, is having that self-discipline, right? Of getting up, being motivated. I've always gotten up at no later than 7:30 a.m. my entire adult life. I'm a porn star. I can get up at fucking noon if I want to, bitch. But I never have, because I'm like, you know what? This bitch is running a business. I don't know other business people that get up at noon, right? Maybe some of them do, but especially nowadays after COVID. But in general, like, to be successful, you get the fuck up early and you go to work. You go into your office and you get the job done, and you work really hard, especially as an entrepreneur and as a female. Now it's a little bit easier for females, but I've been doing this a long time when no other women were doing shit. And they were just looking at me going, well, be pretty and sit down and shut up. The amount of sexism that I've had to deal with in the porn business as a woman business person, most people would have no idea. So, it really comes down to, really being focused and consistently learning, educating yourself, staying on top of new technology. Like when NFTs came out, I was one of the first ones to get some of them sold. I sold over 100 NFTs. I'm using AI for everything right now. And I build teams, and I build policies, procedures, systems. I build companies, and I think that at the end of the day, it's, I never gave the work off to anybody else. I've always done all the work from the bottom to the top myself. I learn how to do something and then I hire somebody to do that. And then I move. I've always had a lot of employees. I probably got like 30 employees right now. I run shit, and I think that that's how you have longevity, is it's not the creative stuff, because everybody's creative. It's the non-creative stuff that nobody thinks that you're doing. And nobody has a clue that you're doing. You're just sitting in your office, pounding away, coming up with these fucking strategies. Now with all the OnlyFans stuff, I got like all kinds of wicked technical strategies that, I've put together and, with other people that respect my business acumen and my love for technology. And yeah, you can't get away with just being, I think, some people can, they'll marry a guy and he'll take care of all the business stuff. But I've never married a guy. I've
Sure.
never had a business. I had a business partner in COVID, but it was a 30-year-old female. Because I respected the fact that I was an old bitch and I hadn't been around a long time, and I needed somebody younger to help me learn the game. But yeah, for me, that's, what I feel
Sure.
has given me longevity and allowed me to stay in the game. And then some humility too. Some humility, right? I'm going to add that at the end, because at the end of the day, I have to say that I'm super blessed, right? Yes, I've worked really, really, really hard. I've worked really, really hard, but I also have been blessed that I haven't been hit by a car, all these different things that could have came in my way, that that the universe has blessed me to still be able to have all my facilities and to be able to show up and to do it. And in general, like, I think that God, like you're born, like, because I dropped out of school in 7th grade. I told you what I looked like when I was younger. I was shooting up. I had drug problems. I had all kinds of issues. I dropped out of school in 7th grade. I've been very blessed that I'm naturally got a certain amount of intelligence, right? That just I was born with. So that's another aspect of, like, yeah, I've worked really hard to educate myself consistently by learning, but some people are just not bright. We all know that to be true. Like, it doesn't matter how much they try to learn, God didn't give them all the, so I always have to say, thank you to the universe for blessing me, because I've had a lot of blessings along the way. I've worked really hard, but I've also had a lot of blessings. They both go together to have long-term success, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and you might not think that any of that is creative, right? But everything you just said, everything that you've done, everything you've accomplished is a fucking art, because not everyone can fucking do it.
One of my favorite quotes is by Andy Warhol, right? And it's something like, making art is a business, and making business is the best of all art. Something like that, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And I love that statement. And I so do agree with you. To be an entrepreneur that comes from nothing, and to be able to consistently your entire life be able to stand on your own 2 feet and, make sure that all your plastic surgery has been paid for, because that shit ain't cheap, girlfriend. That's, I'm in my 50s now, so I have, and there's been so many friends of mine that are like, oh yeah, I want to, run my own business. And they always treated me like, because I was a sex worker running a business, that it was a different kind of business, that it was easy or something. And then they go to run their own business, fail miserably over and over again. And now that it's so many years later, they've seen me start so many businesses. Some of them failed, some have been very successful. Like, now they can look at me as like the true entrepreneur, business person that I am, with the respect that I feel I deserve, right?
Yeah.
Where a long time ago, it was very different. But when you've consistently kept that shit up for 30 years, you obviously figured something out how to do it right.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you said you weren't married, right? So we're gonna end with this final little game that we like to play on this
Okay,
podcast,
cool.
right? It's fuck, marry, kill. So I'm gonna name
Okay.
three. I'm gonna name 3 people. You know the rules. You get to marry
No,
one,
I've
fuck
never
one, and
played
kill one.
this.
Okay, so I'm gonna name 3 people.
Okay.
You get to marry one,
Okay.
fuck one, and
Okay.
kill one. So you
Okay,
have to
love
decide.
it.
Okay.
I love
Okay.
it. This is fun.
First up is Victoria Zdrok. Is ZDR okay? I think I'm pronouncing that right. And then the second one is Sophie Marie. And the third one is Johnny Sins. Who are you marrying? Who are you fucking? And who are you killing? Victoria, Sophie, and Johnny.
I'm going to marry Victoria because she is one smart fucking bitch. And between the two of us, you know, I think that we could probably rule the world. You know, she's Ukrainian. She's got a PhD, went to law school. She's just a very smart, intelligent woman. She was in Playboy with Barishnikov. Is that
Okay. Yeah.
So anyways, I would marry her because I think she would be a good business partner. And I kind of look at marriage as like a business. There's a contract involved.
Sure.
Sophie, I love fucking Sophie. So I'm going to have to fuck Sophie.
Oh, no.
Oh, you're not talking about like actually have sex? Or you mean like fuck?
No. Like you have sex with them, you fuck them. So
Sophie, fuck. All right, good.
Yeah.
And then, you know, sorry, Johnny, but you're a dude. Women rule, femdom all the way.
You've had a nice life, Johnny. You just killed Johnny Sins. Brittany Andrews, the living legend. Please tell them where they can find you, where they can spend their entire paycheck, dump out all their savings, and bow down to you.
Well, BrittanyAndrews.com. I just launched that in January. So I've been working really hard on BrittanyAndrews.com. Other than that, you can go to all my links at DJ Britstar. And that's got me everywhere because I'm on OnlyFans, Loyal Fans, Fansly, ManyVids, Clips for Sale. I Want Clips. I try to make sure I'm just now starting to get into the tube side of things. I'm on Pornhub. But they've got their new YouView. So I've been working with Pornhub on that. And I've recently hired some people to work with to get me more on X videos and X Hamster as well. You know, I got back into the industry in 2018. I wasn't doing any of these things before 2020. And at 2020, I was not online at all. And so in the last 3 years, you know, I've gotten myself on all the platforms and have spent a lot of time figuring out, and we're still working on figuring out a lot of this stuff. And because like we've said before, all the strategies are just so complicated and sophisticated, but I kind of do love all that. But yeah, you can find me wherever you like to find your favorite porn, hopefully, that you're paying for.
Exactly. Yes. Well, it has been an honor, and we will talk to you very, very soon, hopefully.
Thank you, Sugar Plum. I appreciate it so much.
See ya. Big thank you to Brittany Andrews for being on the show. Go check out everything she is doing. Go dump out all of your savings, your paychecks, your PayPal cash on all her content to support her. If you're loving this show, you can show it some love at Sexual World Records everywhere. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on YouTube. And I'll see you, I think, next week.
Yeah.